Hello, hi guys, this is Jack, and today we're going to be talking about Frankenstein, which is directed by Guillermo del Toro. I want to go kind of like super deep into this film. I'm not going to spoil the entire thing because if you've seen any other like Frankenstein adaptation before, you already know what you're going to get into with this one, but I will say this, Del Toro's adaptation of this famous novel is pretty much the most accurate depiction of the material at hand compared to some other adaptations that we've seen a long time ago. So I want to kind of like drill that in for some people while also talking about the performances and some of the stuff that I really enjoyed, like the technical stuff, and then just also some of the problems that I have with this film. So let's dive into Frankenstein. So starting from the beginning of this film, the film is basically split into several parts. You start with the prologue, where you have Victor Frankenstein, played by Oscar Isaac, who is trying to run away from the creature that he has created, played by Jacob Elordi. And in the beginning, the creature is chasing Victor around the Arctic, and eventually Victor finds himself near this crashed ship in the Arctic, and the creature eventually finds him and confronts him about all the stuff that he did in the past. And this turns into a conversation between the creature and Victor and how both of them are at odds with each other. So once that is established, the first part of the film transports us back to the past, where young Victor is this young boy who grew up with a father who was really into the human body. And throughout the first part of the film, you're following young Victor as he grows up to be this scientist who is really like into the anatomy of the body. And eventually Victor has this kind of scientific project where he wants to reanimate a dead body from the war back to, its place in humanity. And Victor eventually figures out how to do that by showing and telling a group of people in this medical university. And from there, after he, finds out how to really reanimate this corpse that he found in this battlefield, then he continues to, find more bodies until he finds Jacob Elordi, his body, the creature's body, or what was his body back then, and he uses the creature's body to reanimate him. And of course, this turns into Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster. And basically after that happens, Frankenstein, from the beginning, Frankenstein's monster, is kind of, not there. He can't really speak perfect English. He can only say the few words Victor to Victor. But then eventually, after several minutes, the creature, or Frankenstein's monster, finds out how to speak to people, and that causes his psyche to turn more human, where eventually he figures out, like, yeah, I was abused by this scientist, and now people around me hate me because of the way I look and how I, present myself. So I'm going to escape from this hellhole and live out on my own as this quote-unquote human, when really, he's a creature of the night. So that's basically like the first half of this film, where it establishes Victor as a person who wants to play God, who wants to be that godly figure who created life, but he doesn't know what to do with the creation of his own demons. And then after, the first part, we transition to the other perspective, where you're following Victor's creature as he's trying to figure out how to communicate with a farmer family. And this is where the film really starts to get very personal and very like human, where you finally get to see Jacob Elordi portray this character with such humanity and just presence. And something that I really enjoyed about his performance was just the way you can kind of tell that he was like very hurt by all the things Victor has done to him early on in the film. So when it gets to this point where the switch perspective happens, you really start to feel for the creature and like how he interacts with this farmer family. And then eventually the third act hits and you kind of know where it's going, but I won't spoil the rest of the movie because I think Del Toro's direction in this film is very spotty, but also at the same time, it takes a while to like pick up to the point where you start to, understand Victor's perspective and then the creature's perspective of the situation both of them are like getting into. And it takes its sweet time to get there. The first hour of this film is basically exposition where you're following both of these characters as they're trying to like establish themselves in this world. And even in the first part, it's a straightforward like costume drama with Mia Goth playing two characters, Victor's mother and Victor's brother's wife. And this kind of causes, the film to have like two dualities of personalities where Mia Goth is playing two characters that actually have the same kind of cadence, but also at the same time, they're different people by name. And it kind of threw me off first time it was established, but then eventually Victor kind of sees his brother's wife as, this motherly figure, especially in the beginning of the film where, they start to have like this romantic link, even though it's weird because his brother just married the wife, the girl. So yeah, it was a really kind of entrancing experience, and Christoph Waltz kind of plays the person who helps out Victor in this predicament. And yeah, I thought Christoph Waltz was pretty solid, even though he doesn't have so much to do. Felix Kammerer plays Victor's young brother in this film, and he's also pretty good for some of the stuff that he has. But other than that, I thought this film was great, aside from, the spotty first hour of this film where it's trying to like take its time to establish everything. But after that, after the first part ends and you kind of switch to the perspective of the creature, that's where the film finally picks up and you finally get to feel a lot of like the weight of all these characters. And Oscar Isaac plays this character Victor pretty well. I heard some people say that he was like miscast as Victor, but I disagree. I think he plays this character with such rage and just pure callous. And when, he gets to his more angrier, angsty side of the situation where, he's trying to create this monster, but also at the same time, he doesn't know what to do after the fact. That's where the film, starts to blossom, and you kind of start to really feel how Victor is portraying himself around other people. And Oscar Isaac does that like pretty well. Jacob Elordi, just going way back to his performance in this film, man, like he just kind of shocked me because you see him like in real life, he's a tall dude, 6'5". Just he's been playing a lot of roles where, he's just like the normal straight dude, or maybe a manipulative straight dude in Euphoria and Priscilla. And also he wasn't, straight in that Horses movie from last year. But here, like his performance is very complex because he has to play this monster caked up in makeup. And he also has to act like a monster, but also feel like a human. And I think his performance in this really does that in spades. There's never a moment where I was just like, that's Jacob Elordi. I was just like, no, this is actually the monster that Victor has created. But other than that, I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely be seeing this film again because I think on a second watch, the film might actually be more better for me personally. But I give this a 4 out of 5 for now. It is coming out in October in select theaters, and I think a little bit later in November on Netflix. But if it does come out in theaters, like definitely check it out. It's a worthy theater experience. As again, I saw this at the Toronto Film Festival, and Guillermo del Toro was there at the second screening for this film, and he brought the whole crew in the auditorium and he started talking about the process. And it was just really nice to see him kind of explain how he created this world and his own version of the story. As far as Oscar awards prospects for this film, I'm going to kind of like put Jacob Elordi in for supporting actor as like the 6th slot, just to, play around with that. Mainly because even if you don't like this movie or you're a little bit mixed on the movie, when you see it, I think once you see the whole thing, you'll be like, well, you know what? I think Jacob Elordi, his performance in that was really good and really like a show-stopping experience. And I think with this film, it definitely will benefit a lot of praise with Jacob Elordi and his performance in this. It's going to get a lot of technical awards. I think costume design and production design and visual effects are definitely going to be sort of a lock for it in the creative space field for the Oscars. Maybe best casting, but I don't know about that yet. But I'm leaning this film to be more part of like the 9th or 10th slot for the Oscars. It didn't get like the best reviews out of Venice. It was kind of like mixed positive, but I think once it came out at a TIFF, people started to like latch onto it. I think that's when people were just like, yeah, this is actually pretty cool. And it was a runner-up for the People's Choice Award, so you got to take that into account also as well. But yeah, like I'm pretty confident in this staying in the race, and I'm definitely confident in it for Best Picture in terms of nominations. But yeah, overall, pretty good movie. Pretty good movie. Can't wait to see what Del Toro does next. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this video review for Frankenstein. Keep it posted, keep it locked and loaded for more TIFF reviews and just other stuff that's happening on this channel. I will also be updating my Oscar predictions and some other award predictions, but we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Peace out.